Nothing like it has ever been seen before. An entire building is to be lifted from its foundations. Xinzheng Palace, one of 9 Taoist temples built along the Wudang Mountains during the Ming Dynasty, has stood here for 600 years. Now it is to be moved. At a cost of 200 million yuan, the biggest protection effort for a single historical relic on the middle route of the South-North Water Diversion Project is ready to go ahead. This vast expanse of water, a few kilometers to the east of Xinzheng Palace, is the Danjiangkou Reservoir. It's the biggest artificial freshwater lake in Asia. It's also a source of water for the middle route of the South-to-North Water Diversion Project. An area within a 300-kilometer radius of the reservoir is to be submerged. But what will happen to more than 200 historical relics in the affected region, including Xinzheng Palace? The massive project to transfer water from south to north is cutting through the ancestral heartland of the Chinese nation. Every kilometer it moves forward means going back thousands of years into history. After a detailed study by cultural heritage officials, a total of 710 historical relics along the eastern and middle routes of the project have been earmarked for the biggest rescue plan in Chinese archaeological history. The plan presents an enormous challenge to both heritage experts and the project's builders. The clock is ticking, and there is no time to waste. In 1412, the famous navigator Zheng He received an edict from the Ming Emperor ordering him to undertake his 4th great voyage of exploration. In the same year, the Yongle Emperor ordered 300,000 builders to the Wudang Mountains. There, they would build a magnificent imperial Taoist temple. The massive temple complex took 13 years to complete. It comprises 9 temples, 9 palaces, 12 pavilions, 36 monasteries, 39 bridges, and 72 cliff temples, covering a total area of 1.6 million square meters. It was twice the size of the Forbidden City in Beijing. In the course of the next 600 years, the complex will be recognized as a priceless part of mankind's cultural heritage. One of 9 great Taoist temples along the Wudang Mountains, Xinzheng Palace was dedicated to the legendary Taoist Zhang Sanfeng. As a celestial, Zhang had practiced asceticism in the area. Xinzheng means to meet the celestial. During the reign of the Ming Emperor Jiajing, the temple was extended. In the course of 5 years, from the original 97 halls, rooms and pavilions, the complex was expanded to include 396 rooms. 33 of them survived into the 1990s. The old man is the gatekeeper. His home is across the road from the palace gate.
我活到75岁，我们在这住了几辈子了。 个有2个这个铁狮子，正殿里就是这个守卫，有几个站将，一个大钟的这个说他那个起个的，我们当小孩子爬地里玩，打个金屁股，婆了那木瓜树地里玩。
With its elegance and tranquility, it was said of Xinzheng Palace that it was close to the clouds, with fairy music filling the air. However, this priceless part of the nation's ancient architectural heritage would pose a huge problem for the South-North Water Diversion Project.
蓝水白调，14年，丹江的水要淹。从我的这个心愿当中，就是我这搬到外地，我还要来看去他们。
By 2011, the plan for the protection of the Xinzheng Palace still hadn't been finalized, even though the work to heighten the Danjiangkou Dam had been completed the year before. The survival of such a priceless relic required lengthy consideration. Experts on the preservation of ancient buildings were called in to advise, and they presented 3 proposals. The first was the simplest, to demolish the temple and rebuild it on a different site. But this was immediately rejected, over concerns that not only would the relocation deprive the temple of its natural environment, but also it might damage its original appearance and style. The second proposal was made by the Cultural Heritage Department, to leave the temple where it was and build a long dike around it to protect it from the reservoir water. However, experts found a fatal flaw in this plan. There was no guarantee that a dike could contain the reservoir water, especially in the rainy season. After the second plan was rejected, the experts put forward a third, to raise the building. In other words, the entire palace complex, including its east and west sections, would be lifted up by 15 meters. Clearly, this plan was best in terms of preserving the temple's original appearance. However, raising a building complex covering over 50,000 square meters would be an expensive, lengthy, and risky operation. And so, even with the work on the Danjiangkou Dam nearing completion and the reservoir ready to store water, no decision had been taken concerning Xinzheng Temple. However, any further delay would impact the schedule for the entire middle course of the water transfer project. It's autumn 2006. An archaeological survey team has arrived at an ancient burial site in Xinzheng County, Hebei. Team leader Dr. Zhu Yanshi visits the area every year. This time, he's surveying the northern dynasty remains here with a view to ensuring they won't be damaged by the water diversion project. This earthen building lies a few kilometers from the ancient burial site. It's part of the ruins of Yecheng, capital of the state of Cao, and dates from the Eastern Han Dynasty, 2,000 years ago. This rammed earthen mound is all that remains of the famous bronze Sparrow Terrace. Yecheng was the capital of several states, successively Cao, later Zhao, Eastern Wei, and Northern Qi. Yecheng once housed the residences of the Northern Dynasty nobility. The adjacent Xinzheng was the place where they were laid to rest. Zhu Yanshi and his team have made a new discovery at the Northern Dynasty burial site. They've found another ancient tomb. But there's a problem. It lies directly in the path of the main route of the South to North Water Diversion Project. In the western chamber of the tomb, the archaeologists find a rotting inner and outer coffin. It contains a human skeleton, along with 144 scattered, painted pottery figurines. The items found in the tomb are photographed. Most of the nearly 200 items are pottery. This is one of a pair of animal tomb guards. The ancients believed it could frighten away evil spirits.
他是一个人的面孔，他的留的胡须啊，还有他的眉目的这种特征啊，实际上是有胡人的就这种特征。
The warrior and his horse are both wearing armor typical of the Northern Dynasty cavalry. The dynasty had benefited from the invention of stirrups, which made its cavalry far more effective in battle. This pottery figurine is holding a shallow basket.
非常平静，还是幸福感十足那种感觉的女性的形象，在劳作当中的一种愉悦的这样一种表情。整个这个雕塑呢，也真是非常的完美。
But a question nags at Zhu Yanshi. Who was buried in the tomb, which he's identified as M003? The initial excavation lasts 2 months, from October to December. The work then has to be suspended until the following spring. One evening, before they suspend their work, as they're preparing to remove the bricks at the tomb entrance, the archaeologists see a square stone.
当然，大家非常兴奋。但是就是考古工作呢是这样一个性质，就是你不能没有好奇心，但是呢也不能有过重的好奇心。比如把这一看见一个木质，马上给它揭开，到底看看是什么东西，那是不可以的。
So, Zhu Yanshi and his colleagues restrain their excitement and take the tablet back to their lab.
打开呢并不是很费事，因为它紧紧的，等于是压在一起嘛，也没有什么粘接剂啊或者什么多困难的事情。当然就是说支盖上面会有一个铁环，如果说我们提着铁环也可以，但是那个铁环锈蚀的非常厉害，不能够直接提那个铁环，然后就把旁边的土呢略作清除，然后慢慢的移动，就能够把这个木质的支盖呢给移动开。移动开的时候呢，就 木质的这个上面的所有的文字呢，就呈现在面前了。
Yuan Hu, also named Bao An, is a native of Luoyang in Henan, great-grandson of Emperor Taiwu. So, the occupant of the tomb was Yuan Hu, a member of the Eastern Wei imperial family. Emperor Taiwu was also known as Tuoba Tao. As ruler of the Northern Wei, he defeated 2 other northern states, Yan and Liang, and unified China's north. However, there is no historical record of Yuan Hu.
这个人呢，他的这官品呢，到了就是做徐州刺史。 他就是到了邺城之后，这个就算最高的实职吧，是徐州刺史，所以在当时来说呢，也是一个 非常重要的这样一个军事将领。
Before the middle route of the south to north water diversion project passes through here, Yuan Hu's tomb must be fully excavated and steps taken to preserve it. The epitaph read in part, Yuan Hu is buried in the royal burial site west of the capital Yecheng and north of the Jiang River. Using this vital piece of information, it was possible for the first time to identify the border between the burial sites of Eastern Wei and Northern Qi. There's a remarkable story behind one of the biggest exhibits at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. When Egypt was building the Aswan Dam in 1963, it received considerable help from the United States. But the project threatened the 3,000-year-old temple of Dundur on the lower reaches of the Nile. In order to preserve it, the Egyptian government took the decision to present it to the US, and the temple was eventually shipped to New York in 640 containers. However, relocating the vast Xinzheng Palace was not an option. The experts examined numerous cases of historical relics around the world being relocated. After repeated discussions, they came up with a new plan. The three gates of Xinzheng Palace would be lifted 15 meters, while the rest of the temple would be demolished and rebuilt on raised earthen foundation. The highest any ancient building had ever been lifted previously was 3 meters. Ultimately, just 1/30th of the building would be lifted. But still, it would be a daunting task involving numerous difficulties, many of which could not be predicted. It's winter 2011, and the deconstruction of Xinzheng Palace begins. Everything is to be dismantled, with the exception of the central, east, and west gates. Every brick bears its own individual historical imprint. The workers exercise extreme caution to ensure nothing is damaged. Every stone is marked. This guarantees that the temple can be reconstructed accurately in 3 years' time. A database is set up to keep track of the millions of building pieces. It takes a minimum of 5 workers to convey a single tile from the roof to the ground. The main girder weighs over 200 kilograms. It's dismantled manually for fear that a crane might damage its painted surface. But the real, unprecedented challenge is to lift the 3 gates, each of which weighs several thousand tons. The middle route of the south to north water diversion project passes through Xinzheng in Henan province. The Provincial Archaeology Research Institute has established a laboratory in Xinzheng. Here, various teams are working to piece together hundreds of pieces of ancient bronze. Ma Juncai is the chief archaeologist here. He's moved his home to Xinzheng, just 50 kilometers from Zhengzhou. The ancient city is home to a piece of history over 2,000 years old. The city wall is considered the best preserved ancient earthen wall in the world. Built during the spring and autumn period, it is 22.5 kilometers long and 16.7 meters high. In 770 BC, with the defeat of the Western Zhou Dynasty, King Ping of Zhou moved eastward from Shaanxi, bringing with him the state of Zheng, which established its capital at Xinzheng. In 375 BC, Zheng was overrun by Han forces, who also made Xinzheng their capital. In all, the city was the capital of Zheng and Han for 539 years. In the Xinzheng suburbs is a burial site of the Han royalty and nobility. Han was once one of the 7 most powerful states of the Warring States period. It was eventually conquered by Qin forces and became the first state to be incorporated into the Qin Empire. It's 2006 and Ma Juncai has been given a new task. These 2 earthen burial mounds are located in the western part of Xinzheng. Known locally as the Hu Village Big Tombs, they lie on the path to be taken by the South to North Water Diversion Project. The tomb's location in an ancient Han royal burial site has given rise to speculation that the occupants might be a king and his queen. Several important items have already been unearthed here, and they lead Ma Juncai to believe that a great building must once have stood on top of the earthen mounds. It was most unusual to add buildings to a tomb in Chinese history, unless its occupant was a king. It's autumn 2006 and the excavation of the Hu Village Big Tombs begins. Both tombs are soon opened. Ma Juncai labels the small one number 1 and the big one number 2. What they discover will cause them both excitement and frustration.
这是一个方壶的盖子，它的身子呀是被盗墓贼偷走了。如果他不偷走的话，他怎么有这么高啊？这个盖子已经非常重，上面又是这些兽啊，又是有铭文，还有刻画的花纹。身子的话没被盗走。
Ma Juncai's conclusion is that the occupant of tomb number 1 was a princess, and that of tomb number 2 was a king of Han. As to which king it was, Ma Juncai soon finds an answer. A bronze spearhead unearthed from the site has a crack in its blade. Such cracks are evidence of the weapon having been used in battle.
在这把戈的这个部位，我们又发现了6个字。这6个字，第一个字是30，就是这些年号都代表王在位的时间，就说明这个王啊，他就最少在位30年或者30年以上。那么我们看这把戈的这个形制呢，又像是又是战国晚期。那么战国晚期韩国国王在位超过30年的，那么只有桓惠王一个。
King Huanhui was the last king of Han but one. By coincidence, the same King Huanhui was responsible for building a famous ancient water control project. But the state of Han grew weak under his reign and came under threat from the neighboring state of Qin. Out of desperation, King Huanhui adopted a plan designed to tire out Qin. He sent hydrologist Zheng Guo to Qin to lobby for the construction of a large canal. Although such a canal would benefit Qin's agriculture, the king's real hope was that Qin's strength would be exhausted by carrying out such a massive water conservancy project. Many centuries later, the canal is still flowing through Xinzheng in Shanxi province. King Huanhui hadn't reckoned with how rapidly Qin's agriculture would develop thanks to the canal. There is little else to remind us today of Zheng Guo, the great water engineer. However, several 2,000-year-old pieces of piping give an indication of how scientific was the approach to drainage at the time. The precisely linked pottery pipes reveal the superiority of pottery-making technology. As for King Huanhui, his name would be remembered again 2,000 years after his death, thanks to another great water project. The work of salvaging Yuzhen Palace is continuing. To guarantee the safety of the ancient buildings as they're being lifted, the workers reinforce them with steel frames. It's like putting them into steel cages. The workers are preparing to inject 1.2 meter thick concrete slabs beneath the main and 2 side gates. They will dig out the earth under the brick bases first, pour in the cement, and then place 12 hydraulic jacks under the concrete slabs to lift the building. The main palace gate, being much heavier at 4,600 tons including the concrete slab, will require 48 jacks to lift it. The lifting of the Yuzhen Palace gates will begin on August the 1st, 2012. Bian Zhihui is second in command of the lifting project. His duties require him to keep shuttling between his institute in Shijiazhuang and the Wudang Mountains.
OK.
The 12 hydraulic jacks are poised to start, but no one can be 100% sure of what will happen. The 1,100-ton West Palace Gate is lifted slowly from the ground where it has stood for 6 centuries. The much heavier main Palace Gate will be lifted next. The palace is being lifted a dozen centimeters a day. It is scheduled to take 5 months to raise it by the planned 15 meters. But soon, disaster threatens. One afternoon in late August 2012, Bian Zhihui receives a phone call from the Wudang Mountains. In the course of being lifted, Yuzhen Palace appears to have started tilting.
一个漏洞，应该说一个小漏洞引发了这次事故。
The engineers had overlooked a minor technical issue in the lifting process. When the jacks are lifted, a steel plate is inserted as a temporary support for each one to rest on when it requires oil. Under the constant high pressure, the plates are compressed and ultimately they begin to buckle. When the buckling reaches a certain point and the horizontal error builds up, the whole building starts tilting. This is called horizontal drift in architecture. If the drift becomes too severe, the whole building will topple over.
"当时是把这个事情想简单了。 到了晚上6点多的时候，偏了1公分多的时候，没想到这个变形越来越大。
Bian Zhihui immediately calls off the operation and heads straight to the site. An emergency meeting is convened. Everyone is facing a sleepless night.
"第二天一白天，然后加上搬晚上嘛，就把这方案调整，把这个千斤顶底下的电墩加大，加大之后，它这个承载能力提高，变形量会减小。
They also increased the number of jacks, from 12 to 24 for the 2 side gates, and from 48 to nearly 100 for the main gate. The contact area of the steel plates is increased to between 600 and 700 centimeters. The new design doubles the weight-bearing capacity of the jack system and reduces the potential error to within a safe range.
把你那个备用千斤顶还用上没？
这今天可能不用了，就看这一次。
The crisis is averted. The palace gate is once again being raised steadily and safely. After the eastern route of the south to north water diversion project enters Shandong, Tuqiao Lock was once a key point on the Grand Canal. Built in 1471 during the Ming Dynasty, it was in use for nearly 5 centuries until it became overgrown. After months of work, the lock has been restored. Tuqiao Lock was the first lock on the Grand Canal to be restored. There used to be a covered bridge and a temple of the Dragon King to the east, as well as a curved water diversion channel, an intake and outflow gates to regulate the water flow. In all, it was a fine testament to the wisdom of the ancient builders of water conservancy projects. Numerous historical relics have been unearthed in the area of Tuqiao Lock. They include nearly 10,000 ceramic pieces, thousands of iron and brass artifacts, and various utensils, all dating from the Ming and Qing dynasties. They create a picture of a thriving canal wharf. More than 3,000 Ming and Qing copper coins have also been unearthed in the area. People would throw coins into the water for good luck as their boats sailed through the lock. It's November the 15th, 2013, and the eastern route of the south to north water diversion project reaches here. After slowly drying up for 100 years, the Grand Canal is revived by water from the Yangtze River. The meeting of the two great waterways is a momentous event in which modern and ancient civilizations are being joined. For safety reasons, an underdrain is being dug to divert the flow and relieve the pressure on the Tuqiao Lock. After 5 months, on January the 16th, 2013, Xinzheng Palace reaches its designated new height. Later in the same year, the Danjiangkou Reservoir begins to accept water on a trial basis. The water level will gradually rise to 170 meters, covering the old foundations of the Xinzheng Palace. Once the restoration of the temple is completed, it will be surrounded by water on 3 sides.
大家现在看到的这件器物呢，它是在南水北调工程中出土的一件邢窑白釉瓷器的精品，它出土于内丘县南中佛墓地。这个墓呢曾经被盗过，但是这件白釉罐呢，它却保存十分完好，十分难得。这件器物它的釉面刀而成的。
By always being one step ahead, the heritage protection has ensured the smooth progress of the water transfer project. There are numerous stories of the project being rerouted to preserve important historical relics.
我们所看到的这项成果展呢，是高清县陈庄遗址的一个考古成果。那么在我们面前所展现的都是
The ruins of an ancient city dating from the Western Zhou Dynasty were found in Gaoqing County, Shandong. They lay in the path of the eastern route of the water diversion project. To protect what was a state-level heritage site, the planners obtained permission from the national authorities to change the project's course so that it ran 2 kilometers to the north of the city ruins. The change of plan cost an extra 200 million yuan. Nine years after the Heritage Protection Project was launched, the follow-up work is still continuing. More than 710 human, environmental and cultural heritage sites have been placed under protection. Among them, 9 were designated top 10 archaeological finds of the year, and 5 received awards from the National Heritage Bureau. The success of the heritage protection work has given a huge boost to tourism. This, in turn, has helped improve the lives of the people living along the routes taken by the water diversion project. The middle route is being opened after the flooding season of 2014. When the clear water pours northward, these national treasures, now under permanent protection, will be given new life.